Hey everybody, it's Strict9 with Strict9GP, and welcome to another episode of my Out of the Park Baseball 20 playthrough with the Phillies. We're now into the off season before that 2040 season. After a pretty disappointing playoff run, we did manage to get to 5 games against Arizona in that division series, but wound up losing. Overall, though, a pretty decent year. 89 and 73, won the division for the first time in a long time. First time we made the playoffs since 2032, so going back like 7 seasons. This year I'm hoping to repeat, but we got some challenges ahead, and I'm going to cover some of that this episode. We'll go through arbitration and free agents, the free agents declaring, and then might look at some offers before we end the episode. But as I usually do in these off-season episodes, I want to look at the end of the year awards. We did cover last episode the playoff history. We went through the whole history, or the whole playoff, simmed it through at the end of that last episode. But it wound up being Texas and Chicago in the World Series. Texas, pretty dominant season. They had the best record in baseball. I think it was like 105 wins. And they won it easily over the Cubs. Their first World Series win, I think, in this playthrough. If I go to the history index here, I believe that may have even been their first time in the. It was their first time even in the World Series since I started this playthrough back in the 2018 season, I think, or it might have been 2017 season that I started this. This playthrough is still from Out of the Park 18, believe it or not. That's the version I started this playthrough with. But I wanted to look too at some end of year awards, starting all the way down to the Gold Gloves. So for the American League, a couple names that you might recognize if you've been following this playthrough all the way through. Wally Kuhn started out with Atlanta. He's a pretty solid player, had a decent career. He's won, I think that's 9 Gold Gloves in his career, several All-Star appearances. He's had a really good career. And then Mike Elwell, a big hard-hitting first baseman. He had 52 home runs again this year. I think he's already he's at 516 home runs for his career already. But in the National League, we did manage to get an award winner out of it, and it was Nate McAfee, the pitcher, who we signed in last offseason, the big free agent pitcher that we signed. So that was pretty good news. And then for top relievers, American League, Chris Doughty with Chicago White Sox. But in the National League, we didn't get the award winner, but the top 5 vote getters, 3 of them were Phillies. So that's a good sign in terms of how our pitching was. And our starting rotation was really good too. But you have Mike Morrison and Scott. Those guys are primarily setup guys, I believe. And then Mendoza, the closer, got some votes. He did have a career high in saves, but his ERA was just a little bit on the high side. Platinum Stick Award winners, American League, Mike Beers. You might be familiar with the last name, but this is a different Beers. He made it shortstop. Jeremy Myers, that name sounds familiar. Yeah, he was the MVP in 2038 with Seattle. And then in the National League, unfortunately, no Phillies showing up on that list. Suzuki, the nemesis of ours in that playoffs, his first year after signing out of Japan, he had a solid year. Gosh, man, just a 7.6 wins above replacement. Solid year all the way around. And then for newcomer award winners, we get Flores in Houston, had a solid year. He's an up-and-comer, looks like a potential 4.5-star player, and definitely hasn't reached his max potential. And then on the National League side, there were no Phillies here, but Suzuki, again, easily won this award. I think he got all the first-place votes, if I'm reading that right. And then Manager Award, Texas Manager. I was hoping we might have a shot at this one, honestly, but it went to Santos with Arizona, his second time winning that award. I don't know. I think we deserve some love on that one. And then Cy Young Award, no surprise, Rocky Stroman, his 5th Cy Young Award, another solid year. I think it was his second in a row. Yep, second in a row. Led the league in wins, ERA, wins above replacement. This guy is really a solid pitcher. He's signed through several more years, actually, through 2043. If he stays healthy, if he gets 200 or more wins, I would say for sure he's a lock for the Hall of Fame. But based on that, I mean, I let the AI vote, and the AI really puts a lot of emphasis, in my opinion, on the awards that the guys win. So 5-time Cy Young Award, that's probably going to get him in there. And 56 WAR, I mean, if he goes to 65, 70 wins above replacement for a career, I think he's easily going to be picked by the AI. Zach Owenby, another guy's been around a while. He's getting some votes. Still, he's with New York now. He's still a pretty solid pitcher. He's getting close to 3,000 strikeouts. If he has another average year next year, he'll reach that number. In the National League, once again, we didn't get the award, but we did have 2 guys who got votes. Even Nate McAfee got some votes here. He only had 12 wins, but 228 strikeouts, 4.1 wins above replacement, and Ken Dion actually getting some votes. So that's good for him. But it went to Espinoza with Los Angeles, led the league in ERA and WHIP. That's the only thing he led on, but it's a pretty solid year. Bergen is a great pitcher out of Cincinnati. I think you could probably go with either one of those guys, honestly. And then lastly, the MVP, a new guy, Chris Reimer with New York. He won it. Again, a solid year. He did lead the league in wins above replacement. That number corresponds more than any other, I think, to who's going to get the award at the end of the year. But solid overall. A lot of new guys. Kostenko, who has won it before, got some votes. Stroman got some votes. It's looking like we've been playing so long that we're turning over to a new generation. I'm not recognizing everybody there. And then it went to Juan Ramirez in the National League. Ramirez has been a solid player for several years, a 5-star player. But this is the first time he's ever won the award. I think it's deserved in a way. He led the league in hits, and that's it. But high average, power, 8.7 wins above replacement. For his career, he's been a solid player throughout. And he's probably going to be signed for a few more years, if I'm guessing. No, only 2 with a player option. So he might be... he might be declaring free agency pretty soon. But Kinsler, this guy's not over yet. I think I posted something to one of my viewers about how his career is probably winding down. Not really. He led the league in slugging, 7.7 wins above replacement, 40-plus home runs, 100-plus runs, 300 average. He's with Atlanta now, which is not a good thing, being in that division. And he signed 2 more years. He's a lock for the Hall of Fame. I think he might even have, again, depending on if he stays healthy. And My Scout has him at 5 stars. OSA has him at 5 stars. This could be one of those guys who literally plays until he's 40. And he might rack up some amazing numbers. I wouldn't be surprised if he does play until he's 40 that he would, let me see, probably challenge for the all-time home run record. Probably get 2,000 plus RBIs, maybe 2,000 runs, 3,000 hits. But that's, a lot's going to depend on that. But he is one of the few players I have seen, and he's still listed as durable. He has never been injured. If you look at his injury history, you have to go back to a couple years ago when he was even out for a week. Man, that's the kind of player you just drool over in this game, and amazing run that he's had. But we did have Josh Gordon getting some votes. Sad thing about Josh Gordon, I couldn't re-sign him. Just wanting way too much money. If I offered him an extension, he's wanting 40 plus. He's actually gone down. He was wanting 43. Uh, he might be worth that to somebody. I think he's probably going to wind up somewhere in the 30 range, in the 30s, mid 30s maybe, but I just can't. I've got the money right now, but that would really leave me slim. So I'm either going to have to hope he stays available deep into free agency and I can sign him, or I'm just going to have to find a replacement, a cheaper version of Gordon. I will say a former Philly, bounced back in a fairly big way last year. I traded him to the Cubs. He was been pretty so-so after I did trade him. I give you some power and production, but last few years have been really bad. And then he came back last year with a solid year. Juan Renaga, I will mention him. At one point, I thought he was going to be another Kinsler Jr. type player. He's still getting some awards there, some votes. But his first season with Chicago, not as dominating as what we're used to from him, just a 266 average. So in terms of how his career is going to play out, I think he's going to be a lot shorter than a guy like Kinsler in terms of numbers. All right, so that's all the awards. I will say too, we already did sign Morrison, who did get some love in the reliever of the year voting. He was solid last season for me. He's a lefty as well. He's rated really good against lefties and righties. 33 years old, so he'll be 34 next year. But I'm feeling pretty good about him, and I got him for $2.3 million for a couple years. I think that's a good pick, or a good extension. But I'm doing a little something different to this offseason. If you're like me, you love seeing how the known players and really even the players that the game generates, what kind of careers people are putting up. So I thought I would go through the Hall of Fame voting this year, because we got some pretty, big names who are currently playing in the major leagues who are now available. And we got some guys who came through this game, the sim that I'm running, who are now available. A pretty good class here. So we'll look at a few, and then I'll go ahead and go through the votes. One of the things here, though, this sim, Jose Altuve, I think he's on the bubble, and I may still put a vote in for him, but he finished with 2,600 hits, 1,200 plus runs, but his wins above replacement, just 40, didn't hit 300 for his career. He wound up kind of struggling a little bit towards the tail end, for sure, of his career when he got to be like 31, 32 years old. But I think I'm going to put a vote in for him, because I've always liked the way he's played. This is his 5th year, though, on the ballot, so I'm not thinking he's not going to have much of a chance. Nolan Arenado, another guy's been on the ballot for a while. I'm also going to vote for him. He played, in this sim, he played a couple of seasons with Phillies, and honestly, I think we revived his career. He went from Colorado, bounced around a little bit, and of course, there's always that, I'd almost call it the Colorado jinx, because these offensive players, they put up big numbers in Colorado, and then they go elsewhere and they don't, so everybody says, oh, well, it's just because of Colorado. But I think, he only played, even though he did play the majority of his career at Colorado, it was only 1,000 games, so he didn't even play half of his career at Colorado, and he still wound up having some good seasons. And towards the end of his career, I think those seasons he had with the Phillies were two of his best, but he was productive well into his late 30s. So I'm going to give him a vote. I think he finished with some strong numbers. But Cody Bellinger went to Chicago in this one. My other sim that I actually, the Cincinnati Reds GM Challenge I did, he put up monster numbers. I think both Cody Bellinger, and Mike Trout broke the all-time home run record. They surpassed Barry Bonds, and just monster numbers. I mean, it was incredible. But in this playthrough, he fell short of 2,000 hits, just over 500 home runs, 245 average, a lot of strikeouts. I'm going to pass on him, even though this is his second year. He got some votes last year. Justin Bellinger, however, had a much better career in this playthrough. I think if you were watching it early when I first started posting some of these episodes, you probably heard me talking about Justin Bellinger a lot. His career was completely different than Cody's, and 654 home runs, 1,800 plus RBIs, 3-time MVP, 82 wins above replacement. No brainer to vote for him. Chris Betts, he's a new one. Pretty solid. He wound up with 351 home runs. Pretty good for a catcher. But I think I'm going to pass on him. Who else we got here? Miguel Castro. Fairly good closer. Rafael Devers was up for Hall of Fame last year. I'm going to vote for him again. I think he was also a guy who finished his career out with Philadelphia and was, again, really solid late in his career with us. I think he put together some good all-around numbers, and I'm going to keep him. I'm going to vote to hopefully keep him on the ballot for a few more years, and maybe he'll get a better chance because 61 wins above replacement I think is pretty good. 1,444 RBIs, multiple All-Star appearances. I think he's of the guys on the bubble. I think he's one of the better ones out there. Joey Gallo, it won't be a surprise, let me say it that way, when you look at his numbers in some ways, because high strikeouts, high power, low average. But although in Major League Baseball, I think he's having a good start to his season, but 573 home runs in this sim, really good, but didn't have the overall numbers, I don't think, for Hall of Fame. Jimenez, pretty solid shortstop. Didn't pick up a lot of awards. I think that's probably going to hold him back. Let's see. Zach Green is another one that's going to be. I think you can make a case for him. The one thing that hurts him is amount of strikeouts and low average. He might get some votes from the AI though. 552 home runs, 1,500 plus RBIs. He was solid for a while. He just never won too many awards. But it's his first year on the ballot. Ken Grissett, not that much. And then Bryce Harper. I'm voting for this guy. He did have that one MVP award in 2015. Was multiple All-Star. I mean, he put up some impressive numbers overall. 1,600 plus runs, 500 plus home runs, 1,930 walks for his career, 80 wins above replacement. I think he's, I voted for him last year and I think previous years when he came up. Mazzara, he had an interesting career, 59 WAR. He's right on the bubble. Played a lot of years with Texas, of course. Wound up with 2,400 hits, 400 plus home runs. I think the AI might give him some votes again this year. But Austin Meadows, to me, had a little bit better of a career, and I'm going to vote for Austin Meadows here. Just played well into his late 30s, was productive for several of those years. I mean, here's a year when he was 36, he had over 300 for the year, 300 plus home runs, 25 hits, 1,400 runs. I'm gonna give him some votes. Addison Reed, who was a former Philly at one point, had a 50 save season, 400 plus saves, but high ERA for his career and only one reliever of the year. Relievers are tough. It's tough to get them voted on. Then we got Trevor Rogers, had one stupendous season with Atlanta, 188 ERA. But that's about it. Gleyber Torres, Addison Russell. Addison Russell, surprisingly, just kept playing. And really, he was 39 as well and was still, he never had a negative wins above replacement season in his whole career. Came close that last year, straight up zero. But 376 career home runs, 68 wins above replacement. So I think he'll get some votes. Torres, on the other hand, a shade below him, though he did have a great run in the mid-20s in that decade. And then lastly, Kyle Tucker, another one who, to me, I think deserves it because he had 2 MVPs. When he came into the league, he was just on fire. First few years that he was here, never had 50 home runs, but did finish with 400 plus, 2,300 hits, 310 average for his career, 69 wins above replacement. I'm going to vote for him, and that'll be probably that's 7. You can go up to 10. A lot of times I don't usually go that high, but let's see if I've missed anybody who I want to give another shot at. Oh, Kimbrel. No. Addison Reed is getting some votes. It's surprising me a little bit. I'll let the AI decide that one, but that's going to be my ballot. All right, so now we'll look at the salary arbitration. The one guy I'm letting go, I tried to trade. He's down to 2-star starting pitcher right now. When I first picked him up from Oakland, he actually had, I'd say, some pretty decent years for me. He was a 4.5 wins above replacement in 2037, but he just was so ineffective last year in the negative, and he's at $5.9 million. He was going to be wanting over 6. I didn't think he was worth it, so I let him go. But the rest of the guys I re-signed, including Koopman, who is expected to get over $10 million. He had an amazing playoff run. Sorry, I didn't want to do that, but he hit .478 in the playoffs. And just in general, this guy, since I made him a starter at second base, he's solid defensively. He gives you consistently high average, and even wins above replacement is consistent. Since he's been a starter, he's been 3.5 or above every year. I think he's worth another year at that position, and then maybe at that point I'll have to start looking at other alternatives. But then everybody else I re-signed. Aguirre might be somebody I'm looking to upgrade, even though he had a decent year, almost a breakout year for him, considering how he had been playing. He is almost specifically a platoon player, and at this point, he's only so-so against righties, so he might be somebody I wind up replacing or getting an upgrade for. I did offer a qualifying offer to Josh Gordon. Don't expect him to accept that, of course, $15 million, and then I'm going to let the other guys go. These were well over 30-year-old veterans. Perez didn't really have much of an impact on us last year like I thought he would. Mayhew, coming off a decent year. I think he may have been injured a little bit. I think he's just, his years of being effective in this game, I think, are pretty much done. But I do think I got my value out of him in the 2.5 seasons that he was with me, so he was probably a good pickup. But let's go ahead, and I'm going to see how it plays out. And we're already getting a trade proposal, a pitcher, which I don't need at this moment, for Ian Norman. I'm really liking that. Pitching staff that I have, so I'm going to stay there. So now free agents will be next, but Koopman did get 10.5. Kondashera, who I debated keeping, he's only $850. I think that's easy to see, but man, Gordon did file for free agency. No surprise. Aguirre got $4.5 million, so he got $1.5 million more than I offered. So now I'm going to go straight to free agency, and we'll see how that frees up the money for us. So first off, Gordon, he's going to be one of the big guys out there. He's going to get what he's asking for or close to it. Ma, who I talked about earlier, he's out there, but still some good offense, but he's aging, and man, his defense is terrible. A couple good starting pitchers here, looks like. Wally Kuhn, another guy I've been mentioning, he's available at third. He's fragile. I don't think he would be too big of a gamble or pickup. So Savello, who is a former MVP, he's listed as fragile, but I don't know if he would be really the replacement I'm looking for in Josh Gordon. But here we go with the available money. So we've got $50 million available. I'm looking at the team now, salary-wise, $92.9 million. McAfee is due Oh, sorry, I was looking at the wrong year. 85.5. McAfee is due 18 this year, so he's going to lead the way. Riggs, um, I'm still holding out hope for this guy. I think he's going to have a breakout season for me. At least get back to where he was few seasons ago or close to it. Mendoza, who I re-signed. Koopman. Bond may not. His contact's still good. I'm not sure how much of an impact Bond's going to have either, but I think if I'm really looking at this team now, I was really solid with Gutierrez. I think he's definitely a good shortstop. I think he's solid at short. I think the outfield gives me some questions with Portillo, and I wonder how Portillo can play. He can't even play right, really. So it's that outfield, really, that's going to be a question mark in terms of right field, primarily. But if we look at our pitching staff first, and these are the pitching ratings that I'll go by the pitching ratings. So we got McAfee leading the way, but we got Ken Dion, Barbarossa, who I think had a solid year. He's a 3-star, just 27 years old, although he slipped a little bit with OSA. I think those 3 guys are solid. I think Contreras, I wouldn't say solid, but I think you can pencil him in for sure. So I like that rotation. The bullpen, we got a good quality reliever. We got 2 good setup guys, or closer. And we got some guys spread throughout that I think can help, do a good job. But I wouldn't mind picking up another good 4+ star reliever. Those are easier to get than some other position players. But then, like on the lineups, like I said, catcher, we're sold. We need a backup. We're solid there. But first base and right field, I think, are the biggest areas where we need to upgrade this team. So with that in mind, I want to look at the what we got coming up, and there's a couple things here that look really good. I'm going to try Zach Thompson, even though he's never pitched above AA. He has never pitched really badly anywhere he's pitched. I'm going to try him in spring training. Both my scout and OSA think this guy's a 5-star potential. He's a guy I wouldn't mind putting in the 5th slot in that rotation and just letting him ride it out. Good start to bad start, however it happens, because I think he's going to benefit more at this point from that kind of development that he would at AAA. But we also have Josh Dean, who, again, potential 5-star, potential 4-star from OSA. His movement's not that good, but he's kind of a shutdown type reliever. He's looked good as every stop he's been. I think he's going to get some look in spring training, so that might satisfy everything that I would need in pitching. I do have Ings here, who's he could be a starter. He looked great in AAA last year, one of the best AAA performances I've seen in a while. So he could be a starter or, a bullpen guy. So I don't know that I'm really going to go for anybody pitching-wise in free agency. But I don't have anybody really going to help me out. A couple guys who were called up from AA, Villalobos and Benefield, they might get a look in spring training, but they're not going to really help me out that much. So I want to tackle the first problem first, or the biggest problem first. And that's going to be first base. So we got Savello, Gordon, Matal, Vega, Henson. I'm only really interested in 3 stars or above. And 3 stars only if I get a good deal out of it. And look at Trejo. Gosh, he's wrecked. So, and very poor personality. I don't want to mess this team up. That's another thing that, I don't know if I showed this last time, but it's odd, rare that you see an ecstatic team chemistry. There's no complaints. I don't want to mess that up. I think that goes a long way towards winning. So now, that's going to lead me probably taking a gamble on some of these guys who are not primarily first baseman, like Mattel, who's won 20 plus million. Vega, who can play first. Now this guy, I might be sold on already. He's 28 years old. OSA doesn't like him as much as my scout. I could probably get him for I could probably get him for 10 million or so. So he's definitely somebody to look at. I like his age too. Maybe if I give him 3 years or so with us. And then down here, Chris Woodley, big home run hitter. Don't like his defense, but he had home runs. Let me just show you what I'm talking about. 32 years old. He's at 385 home runs, but he had that 58 home runs. He was MVP that year as well. He's won some awards. He's just fallen off the map, though, I guess, with injuries. The last few years, that average has slipped. He's not the same player. I don't want to gamble on him, but I think I am going to gamble right away on where was he again? Wasn't this guy? No. It was Juan Mattel, who is coming over, I guess. No, sorry, it's Vega. He's coming over from Cuba, so he's like a free agent, I guess, this year. It scares me a little bit on that OSA side, but he does have some power, and that's what I'm needing. I think he would be a pretty decent first baseman. I'm only going to give him 4 years, though, with a player option. And that's acceptable, so that's good. Now, another thing I want to do, I want to get a backup catcher to help out Ian Norman while he still develops. And here's Quartang. Well, he would want to be in the starting lineup, I'm sure. He's a former Philly. He was a multiple All-Star with us. Offensively, he's a little bit better than defensively, but somebody like Rutherford from last year, honestly, he still wants to be in the starting lineup, though. Who's a good defensive player? Gehringer. He wants to be in the starting lineup as well. Espinoza. Eric Rogers. He has no expectation. That'd be a gamble. Juan Santana, pretty decent defensive player, but boy, he's just a 1-star from all right, so I wouldn't mind having a good defensive catcher. That's the thing. Like this guy, a really good defensive player, but he's injured a lot. And offensively, he's just not even a 1-star. I think it would be pretty much a gamble. I mean, this Eric Rogers guy, I might take a gamble on because he does have pretty decent defense. I can get him pretty cheap, I'm sure, 1-year contract. So I'm going to submit that. And so the last thing that I wanted to look at then is all outfielders here. So we got some left fielders here that look good. Chris Morgan, he can play right or left. Magallanes, I don't like his personality ratings. They were rated really low. Not much. I mean, B.J. Clark is your best bet, and he's left field, and he doesn't have a good personality rating. Chris Morgan, gosh, he doesn't have a good personality rating either. Juan Ibarra, same thing. Bert Nyman, this guy's been around for a while. He's got a pretty decent personality. He wants to be in that starting lineup, though. I don't know. I mean, his best days are way behind him. I was hoping to find somebody who could start, and that may not be a possibility here. Danny Byrne, good defensive player. Man, again, those two have poor, very poor personalities. So let me go back to what I've got here. So I've got Portillo, Riggs, Bond, Hobbs, Sellers, Tuck, Aguirre. I may have to just tough it out with what I got and see if we can find a third baseman instead, because I do have some concerns there with Lockhart. He signed for 2 more years. That was not a very good signing, unfortunately. He has some great personality ratings, but he just did not perform like I thought he would for me. So let's go back to free agents, and we're going to look at third base again. So we got Wally Kuhn, fragile, coming off a decent year. I just don't want to risk that. Mattel. I don't like his I'm being picky here, but I don't like his personality ratings. Not a good defender. So we got Zach Dixon, fragile. Vera, who I'm offering a contract already. I would love to just be able to be. I would love to get Gordon back again, and so he's wanting 40 on the dot, and he's wanting 7 years. That's just not going to happen right now. Trejo wrecked. I mean, Woodley would be a gamble. He's not a great defensive first baseman, but I think it would be such a gamble. I mean, coming off, he had 27 home runs last year and some injuries. Chris Speck, terrible defense. Josh Tupper. Average is low, and I'm not sure why. He's 12 on a 20 scale. Ratings equally good against lefties and righties. 30 plus home runs a few times, including last year, 30 home runs. He's going to strike out a lot, but I think he's going to give you 3.6 million in value. So let's just go ahead and offer that. So that would give us, looking at that, we would have Tupper at first, Vega at third, and then have to figure out what to do with Lockhart as the season goes on. And so that still leaves us with some money, $36 million to play around with. So what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to get a little bit deeper into the free agent period and see what I can see how long Gordon stays out there. So man, they're offering me a big catcher, but they want Ken Dion, and that's just not a good one for me. But what I'll do is I'll work on this offline, and then we'll come back, probably come back spring training and get started again. But the goal, of course, is to repeat and get further in the playoffs, hopefully win the World Series. I think I might be overly optimistic here, but I'm really feeling good about this pitching staff. I think we've got a ace in the making here with Thompson, and if we can just round out that offense a little bit, I think we could compete with this team, at least good enough to make it back to the playoffs and hopefully have a deeper run. But as always, appreciate you guys watching, liking, subscribing, and I hope you like the series so far. And I will be back in spring training. I'm pretty sure that's where we'll come back, but I'll see you next episode. Thanks.